Guy St-Jacques is a former ambassador to China who worked with Michael Kovrig, the Canadian being detained in China. We've reached Mr. St-Jacques in Montreal. Mr. St-Jacques, first of all, thanks for speaking with me today. It's good to have you here to give us your perspective on this continuing and developing story between Canada and China. We now have China denying any knowledge of the detention of Mr. Kovrig, but we now know that they have told the Canadian officials that, yes, in fact, we're holding a Canadian. They're not saying much more about that. Is that unusual, or is that the Chinese way? They're very cryptic in the kinds of messages they give governments about the nationals they might be holding.
Yes, and I think what further complicates the situation in this case is that he is detained by the state security people, and therefore in China you have the police that falls under the Ministry of Public Security. In this case, what I've seen is that they said that he may have engaged in activities that would have endangered national security. So that means that China is treating this on a national security basis, which means it will be more difficult to have access to Michael. He won't have access to a lawyer until he is formally charged. And unfortunately for him, they have now started the interrogation phase. And that means that he will be subject to at least 6 hours of interrogation every day. Every word will be registered. They will film him. The lights will be on 24 hours a day in his room. There will always be a minder with him in the room. And it will be difficult for us to have good information on his whereabouts. I think for the government, this placed the Canadian government in a difficult position. Obviously, the embassy will continue to try to get as much information as possible on his situation, try to get as much clarity as possible on what kind of accusation may be filed against him. I don't think we will get much more. But I think also we have to impress on the Chinese government that, in fact, this could have a serious impact on the bilateral relationship. And that after we have shown some goodwill in as much as Mrs. Meng has been released on bail, they have also to take steps to lower the temperature. Unfortunately, I don't think it's a language that they will want to listen to. And I suspect that they will want to continue to put on pressure on us because they believe that's the way to resolve this.
Can I ask you, I was going to ask you that, so I was wondering, and you've answered that question about whether the release from detention, at least, she's now on bail, of Ms. Meng in Vancouver, would actually perhaps cause the Chinese to release Mr. Kovrig. But I'm wondering whether you believe their real purpose here is to try and affect the whole extradition process and those proceedings, so that they may actually step up actions against Canadians or against Canada, as opposed to winding them down.
Well, I agree with you. And in fact, on top of that, the comments made by President Trump last night are not helpful at all, because it undermines the notion of rule of law. It also undermines the extradition treaty, and it will just confirm in the Chinese mind that all this is political, and that if they apply enough pressure, that we will release Mrs. Meng. On this, again, we have to impress on them that our ends are tied, that we have to abide by the terms of the extradition treaty, that we have to let the legal course continues. And so I would not exclude further pressure that could take the form of canceling ministerial visit. I know that Minister Joly was supposed to go to China from December 17th to 20th to conclude the 2018 Canada-China Year of Tourism. I don't know if they will want to cancel that. I hope they don't, because it will give us another opportunity to express our concerns on the case of Mr. Kovrig, and to tell them that we need to, on both sides, to work to lower the temperature. But otherwise, also, I think they may want to penalize us on the commercial side, and this could take the form of canceling contracts or stopping shipment at the border when they arrive in China. For instance, they could stop shipments of beef or canola or pork for phytosanitary reasons.
Okay. I mean, I guess the next thing to watch, a couple of things I want to finish up with you on. If There are already, there's a travel advisory for Canadians who might be going to China to take some caution. Should the government increase that travel advisory? As a former, would you travel to China today?
Well, I would think twice about it, and I'm supposed to go back, but only in March. But this is the new China that we are dealing with, and they don't seem to be too concerned about the impact that this will have on their image. And I've said this before, they want to make sure that we understand that we are the junior partner in this relationship. So I think for business people, my hope is that they do business in a proper way, that they don't engage in corrupt activities or anything that would be reproachable, because you can bet that the Chinese maintain very detailed files, and they must have list of people in case they need to nab someone else. And so I would just exercise caution.
Do you expect that we will see more actions taken by the Chinese as long as Ms. Meng is held here, even though she's out on bail? As long as that extradition process continues, and as long as we have Donald Trump suggesting that he could get involved if it would improve the trade relationship with China, that, as you've touched on, clearly complicates Canada's case. Do you expect this situation to get worse before it gets better?
I think that it will get worse, because the longer the extradition process takes, the longer it gives them to put pressure on us, and they will be relentless.
All right, Guy St-Jacques, Canada's former ambassador to China. Thank you very much for your time tonight, sir, and I hope we get to talk again soon.
Thank you, and good night.